5-Hour Tea with caffeine from green tea leaves. It's delicious, energizing, and comes in 3 amazing flavors. With 0 sugar and 4 calories, it fits your life. With its compact size and portability, it goes where you go. To the campsite, the hiking trail, the beach, without weighing you down. 5-Hour Tea. Caffeine from green tea leaves. Release your natural side. From the makers of 5-Hour Energy. For more information, visit 5hourenergy.com.
You're listening to Good Morning Gwinnett, a division of ABK Media Group, hosted by Audrey Bell Kearney, sharing stories about people and places around beautiful Gwinnett County, every day at 9 a.m. Southern living at its best.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Good Morning Gwinnett. I'm your host, Audrey Bell Kearney. So happy to be here with you this morning. Again, I'm trying something new, so I have a little bit of technical problems, but I'm getting it right. I'm on my way to PodFest later on today to talk to all the experts who are there to help me make this a great show. I got a great guest coming on with me this morning. We're going to be talking about how to set financial goals as part 2 of how to set financial goals. But before I do that, I wanted to get on over here and do my people helping people. So today is people helping animals. I love people helping people, but I also have a great love for animals and don't like to see any animals doing bad. I don't like to see any animals suffering, just like I don't want to see people suffering. So this organization is called Georgia House Rabbit Society. Now, what's cool about this is that I had a rabbit when I was a little girl, and my rabbit name was Red because the rabbit had red eyes, and I loved that rabbit. I got him when I must have been about 6 or 7 years old when I got the rabbit. And what happened was the man next door to my grandmother had given me the rabbit as a little girl, and I just loved the rabbit so much. So I had the rabbit cage at home. I had to be about my grandmother was still living, so I must have been about 6. And because she passed away when I was 8. So he gave me the rabbit. His name was Mr. Willie. Mr. Willie gave me this rabbit, and I loved that rabbit. And to this day, I love rabbits. And he had a whole lot of rabbits. So this organization, Georgia House Rabbit, it helps save rabbits. Rabbits that are in danger. You can adopt a rabbit. You can help them house the rabbits. They give you classes on rabbit behavior. They tell you how to take care of a rabbit if you have a rabbit. I think it's such a great organization. I wish I had known about it when I was a little girl because I had my rabbit. My rabbit name was Red. It was a white rabbit with red eyes. And one day my mom went to work and I put the whole head of lettuce in Red's rabbit cage. And when I came home, Red was dead. So Red had died. Red had overate, ate too much lettuce, and I cried like a baby because Red had passed away because I fed Red too much because I put the whole thing of lettuce inside the rabbit cage with the rabbit, and the rabbit passed away. And so Georgia House Rabbit helps you by telling you how to take care of your rabbit so this doesn't have to happen to you. So I was really sad about Red. But if you want to know more information about Georgia House Rabbit, you can go to houserabbitga.com. Again, it's houserabbitga.com. Or you can contact them at 678-653-7175, and you'll be able to donate, adopt a rabbit if you want to, if you need to know how to take care of your rabbit. They got information on the website about how to care for the rabbit, what type of diet you should feed the poor rabbit. Don't be like me now. I overfed my poor little rabbit, and the rabbit died, so that was kind of sad. And I was sad too, so that was sad. So don't do that. Don't do that at all. All right, so I got my guest coming on. Chris, can you hear me? So Chris and I let me see here. Can you hear me now, Chris?
Yes, I can.
All right. Oh, I'm so excited. Finally, man, we've been having some problems. I've been trying to get Chris to finish up part 2, and we have just been having all kind of crazy, and it's my fault. I'm not going to even blame anybody but me because I'm hard-headed. And so, the podcast experts have said to me, don't try to do a live show just yet. But I'm a hard-headed chick. I want to do it my way. And so I've been testing different softwares. Now, here's the funny thing, Chris. The program that we're on right now, Blog Talk Radio, this is actually how I started. I started doing this back in probably 2008, 2009 on Blog Talk. and because it was like the only platform that was really out there for podcasting, and it allowed you to have call-ins. Like right now, 50 people, well, it's you and I, 48 more people could actually call in right now and ask you questions, and that's what excited me about it. And when I started out doing it the second time around, I went with another company that I still love very much, and I'm going to keep them because they serve two different purposes. I haven't found one company that does it all for me without going full-blown radio, so Blog Talk was when I started. So I actually have about 215 episodes of a show that I used to do called Business with Breakfast, because it came on every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock on sitting on the Blog Talk platform. So you would think that I would have gone back and just started over here, but I'm hard-headed. So, but anyway, let's get right to it. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me this morning. I really appreciate it. We left off last week talking about setting financial goals, and we're going to pick up where we left off. This is part 2 of a 12-week series that Chris and I are doing to help you get your money in order so you can learn how to let your money work hard for you because you work hard for your money. So, Chris, where did we leave off? I know we're going to talk about automation a little bit later on the show, but tell me, let's pick up where we left off and just jump right in.
Okay. Well, we were talking about setting smart financial goals. Goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And we had talked about one of those goals should be an emergency fund. Another one should be getting out of debt, setting up a short-term account where you have money set aside for purchases, vacations, things of that nature. One of the goals should be planning for early retirement. And then the last thing we talked about was creating multiple income streams. Let me say this also. A part-time job is not a multiple income stream. It's not an additional income stream. It is what it says it is. So then we're going to talk about the second 5 today. So I'll start with number 6. Have enough insurance to cover contingencies. That includes auto and home. As much as none of us really want to pay auto insurance, it can be very costly in the event you do not have auto insurance. So you want to make sure you have enough auto insurance. What a lot of people do, Audrey, they opt for a low deductible, so they pay more, but they pay a higher deductible to get lower premium. But individuals that can't afford a high deductible end up paying more for their insurance coverage. But auto and homeowners insurance is something everybody needs to have. Health insurance or long-term care is also important. Why? Because there's a good likelihood in our lifetime we're going to have to go to the doctor for one reason or another. If you do not have health insurance, it can be so prohibitive that you can't afford to go. In fact, 40% of Americans cannot afford health insurance because of the cost. Long-term care, on the other hand, is in the event an individual needs nursing assistance, has to go into a nursing home and have a nurse come to their home. Now, that's not just for seniors. It can be 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. Someone that has had a debilitating injury or illness needs a nurse to come in on a part-time, per diem, full-time basis. Out-of-pocket expenses are going to be incredible, Audrey, so long-term care. But I believe the most important, or amongst one of the most important insurance coverages to have is life insurance. 60% of Americans do not have life insurance, which begs the question, why not? Mm-hmm. You and I, as many of your listeners know, that we see people every day on GoFundMe attempting to raise money in order to bury a loved one. And that's only part of the problem. Raising money just to pay for the funeral, but that individual that has died, that income that they were generating is no longer available. So if they have a spouse or a loved one or children, somebody's got to take care of those children. There's a cost involved. And so I think we fail to realize life insurance isn't just about burying. It's replacing lost income. Look, there are people, Audrey, that understand that if I purchase a life insurance policy, and I do understand it's an expense, it's a bill, but if we start thinking generationally, when I die, not if I die, when I die, I'm going to leave X amount of money for my loved one. and it's tax-free. So I'll give you an example. Let's say someone starts buying life insurance, 18 years old, single, and let's say they buy $250,000. They can get that healthy, we said an 18-year-old could probably spend $25, $28 for $250,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. When they die, now they may say, I don't have any children now, but they fail to realize that life insurance is always cheaper or less expensive, I should say, when you're younger and also when you're healthy. So that when you die, you leave $250,000 of tax-free income. So that's probably one of the quickest ways to create what I call a trust. So life insurance should be a financial goal. I know some people are thinking I got it at my job, but it's only good as long as you're at your job. Yes, you can cope it over. It's going to cost more money. Most jobs only give you 1 to 3 times your base anyway, which means you don't have enough. So 60% of people that have life insurance do not have enough life insurance. I can't overestimate the importance of having life insurance because if you wait until you have a health issue, now you're either going to get rated or decline, or worst case scenario, you wait till you die. It's too late to do anything. Number 7 financial goal.
Before you get to 7, Chris, I just want to jump in real quick. I got a question for you. So let's back up for 1 second. Okay, so you talked about 2 things I want to talk about, but one of the things you talked about was long-term health care. Now, I know that there are people out there who have jobs, and I know there's some people going through this right now, and they want long-term health care. Explain to the audience what's the difference between long-term health care and short-term health care, and how can they go about getting that, when they work at a job that, may not offer those things, and, like what kind of fees are they looking at? Because I know people right now who are looking for, who have said, you know what, I need something else. Like there's a guy, and I'll give you a prime example. There's a gentleman that works with my husband, and he has a problem with one of his hands, and he needs to go get surgery on that hand. But he knows that if he goes out on disability, he's only going to get 60% of his pay. And he says, you know what, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to, take a cut like that, even though my hand has problems. So what would he need to do? Like, what is he looking at as far as terms of, you know what, I need to be able to get this done, but I know I need to fill in that gap between that 60 and that 40 that I'm missing.
Yeah, there is really no way they can do that. Again, if they're not working, that's why we talked about the other income streams, they're not going to get the income. I think AFLAC has one of the best short-term medical disability programs out there. It's more preventative. In other words, if you get a checkup for specific illnesses, lupus, cancer, there's a check involved in that for you. So they recognize that to be proactive. So that's for short term. So if you're going to be out of work, there's insurance that will cover you. But again, you're looking at probably 40 to 60% of your income. So the other 40 to 60%, either you're just going to have to find a way to struggle through that, or if you got another income stream. That's why now long-term care is something entirely different. That's if, in other words, if I purchase long-term care today, I'm a healthy 18-year-old, certainly it's less expensive, but if I have a car accident and I need a nurse to come in, that costs a lot of money. Or if I even need to go to a facility, that costs a lot of money. But what long-term care will pay for those services, as opposed to you have to go into your savings or your retirement to get it. So there are 2 different things. Long-term care specifically addresses nursing assistance, in-home, out-home. Short-term is basically what it does is it covers you in the event you're out of work for a short period of time. And I think AFLAC has one of the best programs as it pertains to short-term care. Long-term care, I'm trying to think of the name of a company which is probably one of the granddaddies of them all, been around for a long time. It escapes my mind right now, and I can get back to you with some information, or I might think of it while we're talking. So those are the differences. But we may not think they're important because we have the attitude, nothing like that's going to happen to me. But what if it does? What if it does? It can exhaust your savings, your retirement, and can cause more stress because, as it is, people are living from paycheck to paycheck. So those are prohibitive in addition to just health insurance. They're out of reach. That's why, as we talk a little bit later, we'll see how that could you can work that into your expenses as well.
And that's so funny because my mom has Aflac. She's been having Aflac now. It's got to be a good. Let's see, it's 2019, so she's probably been having Aflac probably close to 15, 20 years, and she got it through her job. But here's what happened, Chris, because what you said is so true. In 2010, she got diagnosed with breast cancer. And Aflac stepped right in and offered a great services for her. And to this day, she still gets a check from Aflac. So we talking about 2010. She got diagnosed again in 2012, and they were right there. So my mom gets a check quarterly from Aflac to this day because of that policy that she had. Now, let me tell you this: she retired in 2010 from her job, but because the policy was already in effect at her job. When she retired, she was able to keep that same policy, and she was able to pay that policy out of pocket, which has served her so greatly because, to this day she gets a check from Aflac. So that is and she said to me, man, she get to do things that she want to do, because that's kind of like not free money because she had breast cancer, but it's money that she paid into early on. So insurance is a great way to secure your future for you and your family. So Chris is right about that.
Yeah, the other company it's Genworth. They've been around for 100 years, great track record. They have some great long-term care programs and policies that would help people as well. But again, in the case of long-term care, short-term, and life insurance, age plays a fundamental role. The younger you are, the less expensive it is. The healthier you are, the less expensive it is. And for me, it's a concern that while we don't recognize the importance of it, it's a bill. I understand that, but it's got to be as important as paying a car note, house note, utilities, et cetera, and so forth, or for you to get the full advantage of it. And that's part of you talk about controlling your financial destiny. That's a big part of that as well. Number 7 is spend less than you earn. Probably an over simplification, but if you make $100 a week, don't spend $110, don't spend $125. Credit allows us to do that. Here's something really interesting. When we go buy a car, they ask you what's your gross income. I find that to be really interesting, Audrey, because we don't get paid gross, we get paid net. So I look at my gross income and I say, hey, I could afford that. Well, no, you can't afford that. Because you're basing it off of a premise that this is what you bring home. That's not what you bring home. But by and large, the people that know me, some say I'm frugal, some say I'm cheap. I think they would be right, whichever terminology they use, because we don't have to buy the latest gadget that comes out, the latest phone, the latest fashion trend, but we've got to learn to spend less. What I do with my budget every month, I'm trying to knock it down 10%. I'm trying to reduce my costs 10%, because we actually end up spending more than we earn, so we end up mortgaging our future because we've borrowed money, and so now I got to repay that money at a higher interest rate. And so I think that's probably one of the most singular things a person can do towards controlling their financial destiny is spending less than they earn. And again, that sounds like it's real simple, but you'll be surprised. I think you and I had a private conversation. Let's say we live in a culture that every month there's at least one day designated for you and I and your listeners to reach into their pocket and their pocketbook and spend money. And so as we traverse that line, we got New Year's Eve in February, we got Valentine's Day in March. What do we have in March anyway? We have St. Patrick's Day in April. Yeah, in April we've got Easter, then May Mother's Day, June Father's Day, July 4th of July. Celebration, and then August, generally spend a lot of money going back to school. September is Labor Day, October is Halloween, November is Thanksgiving, and Christmas. We don't even think about it. We just start spending money. And then Hallmark has decided to get in on the act, and they've created days like Secretary's Day and Grandparents' Day. And so we just spend money without thinking based off of our culture, advertisements and things of that nature. So, but I think if people would just realize that they would spend less than they make, they would be ahead on the learning curve. Here's one: be generous. be generous.
Mm-hmm.
I believe if individuals have been blessed with enough money, well, let me back up. If individuals are earning money, whether they're making $10 an hour or $100 an hour or $250,000 a year, I think it's providential that individuals would learn to be generous. When you're giving to your church, your mosque, your synagogue, giving to other, you mentioned the Rabbit organization, giving to that organization. I at one time used to give into Paws, which is cats and dog shelters. Find organizations that have need of maybe not just your service and time, but also your money. You know, I'm a firm believer that if we do that, man, it'll come back to us. And then number 9, plan to leave your financial house in order upon your death. You should have a will or a trust. Part of that also, right here by the side of my desk, I have a booklet that says My Final Wishes. And in it is the funeral home I want to use, where all my bank accounts, my investment accounts, passwords, debit cards, credit cards, everything is set up right there so my family won't have to worry about how, what arrangements need to be made. Everything's done. I've even gone to the extent of doing my obituary already, because at that point in time, my family's grieving. A will is going to designate who gets what, when they get it, et cetera, and so forth. Trust is a bit more complicated. And then number 10, and we'll talk about this more on the other side of our other broadcast, think generationally. Think about building generational wealth. I know the vast majority of people live from paycheck to paycheck. They're struggling to pay bills as it is, but we also got to think about the next generation. We talked about life insurance. That's a way to get people off to a good start financially. But I think if we start thinking generationally, we will see the personal benefits of it now. And we'll talk about that later. But if we're thinking generationally, we're saying, hey, I've got to generate more income in order to make that a reality today. And so we start thinking like that. Why? Because our belief and our behavior are connected to one another. And again, that's another conversation. So those are the 10 smart financial goals I believe everybody should set.
Man, that's some good information. You said a lot of good stuff, and one of the things you talked about was having a will. Now, I want to say this: there are kits that you can go out and buy at Office Depot and Staple that have wills in them, but you want to make sure that you kind of want to talk to somebody who knows a little bit about wills, because there are things that you may not know. Like I know. One of the things I did was I set up wills for my uncle, my mom, and myself some years ago. I'm talking about probably about 2000. And when my uncle passed away, because he had that will in place, it was easy for my mom to say, this is his will. And that was all she had to do. There was no argument. And there was 8 of them. So, it's 8 brothers and sisters. When it's that time and somebody has to get in the box, as Russell Simmons says, when somebody got to get in the box, the family goes crazy. I never could understand that. Why people lose their mind when it's time for somebody to die. Like, okay, so have you been there the whole time when they were living? But anyway, that's another topic for another show. But the one thing that saved us a lot of headache was the fact that will was right there. So there was no questioning what my uncle's wishes were. And so that's really important. So when you think about a will, and he didn't have a lot. He was a sweet man, so he did a lot for a lot of people. He didn't have any children. His wife had passed a few years before him, but he was a great man. And, but he wanted to make sure that the people that was right there for him the whole time was the people that, he took care of. And so in his will was information that my mom used to take care of everything that needed to be taken care of. But you want to make sure that it's written properly. I met a young man here recently. He had a horrifying story. His mother passed away 6 years ago, and she was a millionaire. And I think he was the baby of all the children, and he was young. So right now he's 30. So at that time he must have been about 24, 25 years old. But he didn't know. He didn't know anything about. And this is another thing, Chris. You need to educate your family about what these things mean. He didn't really understand what was going on. And his mom left a will, and she left his name as the sole heir to her estate, which was over $2 million. And his brothers and sisters came behind him and took everything from him, even though she left the will. So a will is great, but you need to make sure that your family understand what to do in the case something should happen to you with that will, how to protect yourself from people who are out there to take advantage of you. There's a woman that I met at a conference I was speaking at last year. Her son's dad passed away. Same situation. He had two boys, but one boy was a bad boy. One boy was a good boy. He left everything to the good boy. Well, the bad boy and the stepmom got together to take advantage of the good boy. But the thing that saved them was the fact that his mother, the woman that I met, she had a little bit more sense to know, we're not going to do this. We're going to fight. We're going to get an attorney. We're going to make sure it's taken care of. So you want to educate your family too. Like, people don't like to talk about this stuff because they think, you know what? No. I don't want to talk about death and dying, but here's something let me let you in on a little secret. We all going to go one day. So why not leave knowing that everything is in order? So having a will is great. It is a great thing to do, but you need to make sure that you explain to your family members what a will is. Like right now, my daughter just had a new baby. I told her about insurance for she and her fiance, so I set all that stuff up for them. Now we have to do a financial needs analysis on the will and all these things, but she understood when I said to her, if something happens to you, I need to be okay with taking care of the baby. I haven't taken care of a baby in 28 years. I don't know what the heck to do. So, but we're putting those things in place now. God forbid that something happens or I would lose it. But I have to talk about these things because she's a parent, and I may not be here forever to coach her along. So you want to make sure that you educate your family about these things. Talk about money in your family. Don't be afraid to talk about money. That's another thing, Chris. People don't like talking about money.
No, they don't. Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day, we have our family reunions. I wonder how many family reunions we set up some time where we talk about the family, about wills and trust and life insurance and college savings. Great time to get our families together. Thanksgiving, great time to talk about that. And I firmly believe that when we don't, we're being irresponsible. We're helping our families stay where they are, not providing them with the knowledge, which in turn means they're going to struggle somewhere down the line financially because we didn't take it upon ourselves. Even if you don't have the knowledge as the head of the household, this is the 21st century. You can Google everything. You can find a professional to help you with those. So to not do it is tantamount to being irresponsible, I believe.
Absolutely. And with all the resources that we have right now, there are no excuses to be irresponsible. There just isn't. There are none. I mean, you can set up investment accounts for $50 a month, so you can have life insurance. And I mean, literally, right now, an older person can go out and get a life insurance policy. And we know that because this is what we do. We talk to people about money. We talk to people about business. I love being an entrepreneur, but I also love to know that, one day I'm going to be gone, and my child and my grandbaby needs to be taken care of, and they need to understand this when I'm gone. I'm going to say this real quick and give it back to you, Chris, but I think I talked about this in the last episode when you and I were together. There was a documentary done by the Johnson & Johnson family, and those people get together on an annual basis with their CPAs, and they talk about how to create wealth, not for them right now. They talk about 5 generations out. And that's how they've been able to grow their company. I don't know if you know this story. A soap opera, people love soap operas, right? My mom watches them every day. But Johnson & Johnson says, you know what? We're going to create something for television to sell Ivory soap. From Ivory soap, they have built a freaking empire. So, listen, Chris, this was going to be too short. Next week we're going to schedule out for a little bit longer so you can get to all the things that you need to get to. But until then, tell people how to reach out to you so they can get more information about what you're talking about today.
Yes, certainly can. You can call me at 404-839-8274. The number again is 404-839-8274. Or you can email me at realissues@aol.com. Real issues, that's plural, at aol.com.
Listen, Chris, on next Wednesday. I think I got all the kinks worked right now. He'll be back next Wednesday. If you information about what's going on, and I'll be back here too, God willing. I'm going to try to come on tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I'm going to Florida. I'm going to be at the Podcast Festival this weekend, starting today, so I'm leaving tonight, flying out tonight. But I'm going to try to come on live from the festival tomorrow. But listen, until next time, if I don't talk to you tomorrow, I will talk to you on Monday, God willing. Until next time, make it a great day. Thanks so much, Chris. I look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, have a great one.
You've been listening to Good Morning Gwinnett. Make sure to tune in daily at 9 a.m. Eastern Time to find out what's happening around Gwinnett. If you miss an episode, go to www.goodmorninggwinnett.com to catch up. If you like this episode, go ahead and subscribe to the show now and share it with your friends.
When it comes to safety, nothing is more important than your vehicle's brakes. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing or grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best and Brake Best Select at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brakes from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.